Hello, welcome back everybody. I'm Dr. Robin Kelly, family doctor, concerned about the rollout of 5G and the additive effects of this on our existing exposure to radio frequencies. And last time I talked about a review paper that came out of the Ukraine in 2015, and that reported on a whole body of work that showed that there were non-thermal effects from radio frequency waves, something that it appears the authorities are shying away from. Now, around that time when I discovered that paper, a friend of mine sent this series of papers, declassified papers that were declassified in 2012 by the CIA, and they're from Russia, and most of them come from 1977, 42 years ago, and it's titled "The Effects of Non-Ionizing Electromagnetic Radiation on the Body." And it is clear to me that the CIA and the military in the US have known about this for so long that it precedes the introduction of the first cell phone, mobile phone, the brick. And because this has been declassified in 2012, there's pretty well no excuse that the World Health and ICNIRP and the other agencies who are supposed to be safeguarding our health haven't seen this. And obviously the military and the CIA took it very seriously, or else they wouldn't have, let's say, intercepted it. Okay. Without going into the details, I'll just give you some indication about what these papers are about. The first one, which I found very interesting, was about the effects of low-intensity microwaves on arterial pressure, in other words, on blood pressure. And this is interesting because we now know that these frequencies affect the passage of calcium in and out of cells, causing a build-up of calcium. And there are certain types of blood pressure medications called calcium blockers, calcium antagonists. So that sort of makes sense. The effect on our bone marrow, exposed to low-intensive microwave electromagnetic fields. The effect on the heart. One or two other general effects of low-frequency electromagnetic fields on the body, and including the biological effects of millimeter radio waves. There are, in fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 studies here, which the authorities will have known about for a long, long time. Now, of course, they all need to be scrutinized and I think examined by people in the field, particularly biophysicists. Now, why I'm interested in this is that in the early 90s, I was lucky enough to attend a great conference in Edmonton in Canada, where doctors and scientists from all over the world came to share their knowledge of their own country's health culture. In other words, how it had developed and what seemed to be to them orthodox and what they thought was unorthodox. And it was an eye-opener for me, because I learnt that what in my country, in New Zealand and the UK, is thought to be unorthodox and fringe, in fact, was accepted in many countries. And I got talking to physicians and scientists and physicists from Russia, who I found to be wonderful and not at all like the Bond villains that I'd come to expect. Well, I hadn't really, but you know, we'd been force-fed that. We have to remember that most Russians, or those in the Soviet Union, weren't members of the KGB, but ordinary folk like us, wonderful, sort of caring folk for their families. Anyway, they told me that their health system had developed very differently for a number of reasons. one of the reasons was that the pharmaceutical companies and the drug companies have actually come out of Germany and the UK and Switzerland. Many had, of course, emigrated to the US, and therefore our health system, by and large, has been based on biochemistry, medication and drugs. And they're at the forefront of our health system, for better or for worse. Now, this wasn't the case in Russia and the Soviet Union, where their focus was on, first of all, on the natural remedies, but also understanding the physics of the body, the biophysics of the body. And many of those scientists who were involved in their space program, in fact, left the space program when that ran out of money, and it became very much second best to the West and the US, and went into applying their knowledge of physics to the human body. So there's a huge wealth of information and study and science that has been published not only in the Soviet Union, but all those countries that were deemed to be behind the Iron Curtain, which is an interesting concept, the Iron Curtain. So they have had many years of experience, and of course there's no doubt that although many were exploring this for health reasons, then, you know, I'm not naive enough to feel that they weren't looking at weaponry as well, and hence the CIA were interested. But it does concern me that this knowledge really has been in the hands of certain people for a long, long time, and should have been accessed and discussed by the World Health Organization, ICNIRP, and the different government agencies that are protecting our health. And obviously, if there is a potential for weaponry, that's something we should understand. And by looking at these papers, it was clear that it is well known that there are health effects not only from the 5G proposed millimeter waves, low frequency waves, but also from the existing exposure that we have. There is non-thermal effects, in other words, thermal otherwise effects on the body that are above or beyond heat. And this is not what we're being told, and it's pretty important. And the other thing that strikes me is that most of the people on these committees, if they are scientists at all, are epidemiologists. And they're the people that study epidemics, which is very much down the line. You know, one has to have been exposed to these levels of radiation probably for some time before illnesses in most people are manifest. And so they're really right at the end. They're almost like the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. What we need to know is from experiments on living tissue, what they actually do on the living tissue. And that's when the biophysicists and the molecular biologists are the ones that we should be consulting. And they're the ones that are coming out around the world and said, halt, this is crazy, and some are saying this is madness. So please share this. This is just one other bit of information. They're declassified papers, declassified by the CIA, known about around the world since 1977 about the dangers of radio frequencies, non-ionizing radio frequencies, not that are producing effects on living tissue beyond just heat effects. Okay, all the best. Bye-bye.